Alright guys, this is TurboDog702. I'm just making a quick farming reference video because a few people have asked me how to farm Cath or, how to farm it effectively, so I'm going to do that real quick. Keep in mind that once you get your epic mount, if you are a gathering profession, you can make gold quite a bit faster by doing other things. Other classes have access to better farms like the Moradin farm, or if you're a mage, let's say, going to Dire Mall or to ZF to farm things there. Some classes can do solo tribute runs. But I'm going to show you what I did on my warrior in order to get to my weapon mount. The SM Cath farm will make you between 25 and 35 gold per hour. Just depends on how much space you are, how good of a drops you get. A bunch of other things too, but that's kind of what you can expect to do. If you should strive to clear about 3 times an hour. That's a pretty good pace for this. Also for prep, I definitely recommend at least having 14 slot bags. In this case, I have 16 slot bags. I consider that a really good investment for this. For the purpose of this farm, you want to try to empty them out as much as you possibly can. As you can see, I still have a fair amount of gear available on me. That's just because my bank is relatively full, and I'm not going to be doing extended farming here. I'm just going to be making this video. But you have to think of this as effective gold space to work with, so try to give yourself as much leeway as you can. Other preparation things, I would highly recommend either getting a stack of food, or preferably, if you have a mage friend on or a person in guild, that can make you a pair of stacks of food. The reason for that is, even if you have to pay a mage, do it. I usually go 1 gold for each stack of food, and I get 2 stacks of food. Normally I try to have a friend make it for me for free. The reason for that is you will be regenerating health when you do need to sit and eat much more quickly. You can always throw away a stack of food if you really want to. Like if it starts to get low and you can make better money elsewhere, you can do that. But otherwise you are going to be spending a lot of time sitting and eating the brie that you get for drops from the guys here. Doing that takes way longer, it's a way less effective food. And on top of that, it's going to take up space in your inventory, which could be used for other things. So try to get a hold of some mage food if you can. Barring that, pick up some food. It's going to eat into your profits, but hopefully you aren't eating that often. Other thing to mention, I currently have a Songflower buff. You do not need this in order to do this farm. I simply have it because I wanted to make the video kind of in an expedient fashion. So I figured getting the buff from that would make it a little quicker. If you're curious how to get that buff, look up a Cenarian Beacon on Wowhead and then figure out how to do the quest chain for that and how to get Songflower buffs off of that. As for my gearing, my PvE gear tends to have much more lever, like the Devil Saur gear and such. For the purposes of this farm, I am trying to run more plate. Just reduces the amount of damage that I intake, even on a lower level dungeon. But I do make a concession here on the boots, because these boots have minor speed increase. It's not a huge difference, and plate is not super important on the feet as far as how much I'm going to be mitigating here, so I just took the minor speed increase instead. But I mean, I have good gear. I'm not going to say I don't, but I have done this with much worse gear and still been fine off. Double Crusader is very nice for this farm. It just helps your survivability in conjunction with Bloodthirst if you're running Fury. But many different builds can do this. So one of the main things that you do need to remember is you still need your Scarlet Key, unless somebody is graciously letting you in. I still would take it, because you never know when you're going to have to go in and out. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So, the first thing that you need to realize is, as a 60 with nobody else that you're assisting, you don't need to clear these guys. You can just run past them. And we're running right to the cathedral. When we get in the cathedral, we are going to be clearing everything inside of there, because if you try to pull the boss without it, they will pull the entire cathedral. If you are an herbalist like I am, you can choose to make a little bit of extra money if you would like by hitting these herbs. There is between 2 and 3, and it is very typical to get Life Fruit and Gold Thorn as a result of this. If you decide to get these, a lot of times you might run, like have one guy pat into you, but that's not a huge deal. So talking about advantages of this farm, The advantages of this farm is consistency. So while I can make more money on my epic mount doing herb routes, that is contingent upon PvP being fine. If there's like 3 herbalists in Fellwood, I'm not going to make any money because they're going to be out herbing me. And potentially, if it's a PvP situation, I might be getting ganked or any number of other things. You don't need to worry about that in Cathedral. You can just start farming and immediately get things done, and it's going to be a consistent gold gain. Another advantage of this is if you had alts between level 20 and level 40, let's say, you could do a run of this. You'd be getting 2 runs an hour like that, and the money would be getting split, but if you're trying to help out friends, it's a nice way to do so. So first thing I do, make sure that I get Battle Shout up. Very basic PvE thing. I'm using Blood Rage here, and I'll kind of cover that in a minute. You'll notice that I am hitting Hamstring on these guys. Almost every enemy inside of here runs away. We do not want them pulling more than we expect. I'm going to be blowing Death Wish here. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is one of the ways that you optimize a farm like this is making efficient use of your cooldowns. So I can expect to use between 3 and 4 Death Wishes over the course of this run. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping it on cooldown when it is effective. Chaplains have Renew. Renew I tend not to worry about too much, because I'm just going to deal so much damage that they're not going to be able to stop me when I get going. Abbots. The guys with the tall hats. These guys enrage, so you do not need to worry about hamstringing them. You do need to worry if they try to heal, though. Not renew, but heal. If they do that, make sure that you have a pummel or a kick or something available. You'll notice that I am pulling all of these guys to a centralized location. The reason for that is I can more effectively loot them when they are all dead. Let's see. So once I am ready to loot, like let's say now is the time that I wanted to loot, I can just immediately start clicking. Keep in mind, if you're an orc, you can use Blood Flurry as another cooldown available to you, but it does reduce your healing that you take. So there's an example of the Brie that I was talking about. You can always swap over to get another charge off if you would like to do so. Keep in mind that Berserker Rage will be good for getting you consistent rage throughout. A lot of the things I'm going to be mentioning are going to be more warrior focused, but that's because a lot of the people that ask me this stuff are warriors or druids or things like that. Other dangerous things to keep in mind. These guys, the masked guys with the two-handers, the champions, they are probably the most dangerous guys in this dungeon. The reason for that is they have a move that does 700 holy damage, give or take, to you, that is unmitigated by armor. So whenever you pull one of them, I would say that your safe HP amount is roughly 1100 HP. If you go too much under that, then you're at risk of them hitting that move, hitting you for a relatively large number, and killing you. So you do need to be careful of that. Once again, just kind of dragging these guys back in such a way that I can loot them effectively. But don't go too crazy with that. You know, like right here, I have plenty of health, so I'm not going to sit down and eat. But I'm also really don't want to drag guys that far back. If you get 3 guys, I would recommend using Demo Shout like I just did there. Just reduces the amount of overall damage that you're going to be taking at any given time. If things get shielded, you don't get rage from hitting them, so if you are really low on gear, you might want to optimize against that. So now I'm getting relatively low. As said, I'm at about 1200 HP. I got a nice Crusader proc there that kept me in the game, but normally I would eat there. But we're going to go ahead and take care of these abbots and then probably eat. So there's the heal. I'm going to go ahead and bash that. Even if the other one gets his heal off, that's okay. You're just trying to make sure that they don't double stack their heals, and then it takes forever for you to get back to stuff. So earlier I got a Brie drop, which is where you can start making decisions on what you want to do. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to eat the larger amount of food and work with that. But you could easily eat the brie if you don't have a lot of damage that you've taken and you want to eat at any given time. I've also broken one of my rules in that I didn't keep Battle Shout up, but that's okay. I'm trying to narrate while I'm doing this, so it's a bit more difficult. So here's a kind of odd situation where technically I would want to hit the champion, but because the Abbot can heal, I do want to get rid of him. It's very typical for you to get access to greater health potions as you do this through drops. Do not be afraid to use those. If you get into that critical range, like 1100 against champions, or about 600 against other things, absolutely break a greater health potion. That will cost you much less than taking the death. Not just in terms of repairs, but also in terms of time. This is a farm that is very much, time is money type of thing. And a lot of these little optimizations may seem silly, but the optimizations are really what makes the difference between, say, a 20-minute clear and an 18-minute clear. It's also what keeps you alive, so that you don't die randomly to stuff. So this is a good place where I kind of decide whether I want to use my Death Wish here or can hold it off till the boss. Sometimes I'm a little low on health here. Like I didn't take the previous eating, sometimes not. So this is a situation where I'm pulling 4 guys. I would not recommend pulling more than 4, especially as a warrior. Whirlwind caps at 4 targets, so as a result of that, you are going to strictly be just taking hits if you pull more than this. Other classes, you might only want to pull 2. You might only want to pull 1 in some cases, but for my build and my gearing, 4 is about the most I want to do, although I tend to stick to 2 or 3. You'll notice that I'm not really using Execute. That is because I can always use the Rage going into the next section of the Cathedral. The only time I will execute is if it's kind of a dire situation where I need to get the kill, or on the final boss, which I'll kind of discuss afterwards. So we've used our Death Wish, but we still have access to Blood Flurry. We're going to go ahead and use that on High Inquisitor. Something to note about High Inquisitor, all of his drops are unique, so once you get all 3 of his drops, if you do, I wouldn't even bother back here opening this up. In general, his drops are relatively low impact anyway, so you might even be willing to skip this. I haven't actually crunched the data on if it's worth it to fight him and kill him or not, but maybe you guys would like to. As far as crunching data is concerned, if you are able to do 3 runs in an hour, there is a lot of soak that drops off of these guys. If you do 3 runs an hour, it is actually less time efficient to craft it into bandages and sell it, which increases their market value. And depending on the cost of silk on your server, it might not even be worth your time to put it up on auction. At the time that I originally did this, silk was sitting between 40 silver and 50 silver, and at those prices, I was not making money attempting to sell it out of the AH. It was much better to just sell the raw cloth. If you were running low levels through this, though, and they have access to the ability to make it into bandages or into heavy bandages, you could absolutely pass it off to them at the end of runs and have them craft it while you're just clearing as a little bit of added gold income. It's one of the ways that they can assist you as you're helping them. You'll notice that I would kind of like move them back a little bit here. It's not the worst thing in the world if the side rooms pull, but the side room over here has 2 people. The one that's closer to Mograine has 3, so it can very quickly get out of control if you don't maintain awareness and hamstring on these guys. I'm going to use Demo Shout and get moving. Just to, once again, trying to pool everybody together so I can loot more effectively. This is basic warrior DPS stuff too. I shouldn't need to explain why I'm using, Bloodthirst or Whirlwind too often. Hopefully you guys have picked up on that yourselves. You'll You'll notice that I'm walking backwards. That's not because I can't strafe and run. It's just enemies have a hard time following you and staying in range of your attacks if you run too quickly. So I mean, pretty decent run here. Just getting stuff killed and out of the way. And it may not seem like I'm making a lot of gold, and I'm not really making a lot of raw gold through silver and such, but I am getting a lot of drops and a lot of sellable things. And that can only get better on the condition that I get good drops from these. So Mograine and Whitemane both have the ability to drop very high gold value drops for this point in the game. You could get Mograine's Might to drop, or you could get Whitemane's Hammer. I forget what it is off the top of my head. But those are both pretty decent money if you're just straight selling them. So this is easy enough. You don't even have to shout him if you don't want. But fighting Mograine for the first time here, you really don't want to blow any cooldowns on him. Whitemane comes out. So this is more of an optimization as I've gotten stronger. Whitemane will always resurrect Mograine at about 50%. So as a result of that, I am going to actually be blowing my Death Wish around the 50% mark. That way, once she resurrects, I'll just have full uptime. So I'll kill them before this is pretty much over, as long as everything goes well. It's within 30 minutes, so I'm going to actually blow Recklessness here. You could use Recklessness in this way, or you could use it in a larger pull with Retaliation. It's just entirely up to you and what you have available. What I like about this strategy is there are situations where you could skip this. Like, had he not done that right then, I would have Bloodthirst Execute and he'd be dead before this happens. So this is kind of annoying. You have to wait about 10 seconds, but easily doable. You can also optimize this a tiny bit by dragging him away as he's bubbled. But that's like a very micro optimization. I mean, that's it. We've done a run of this. You obviously won't have your 30-minute for all 3 runs, but you should have it for, 2 out of the 3 runs. Nice and easy. Easy farm. And you just do this until you basically fill up your inventory. As far as more optimization, use scrolls on yourself. Another thing that I tell people is if there's anything under 20 silver or so, just chuck it. Like Stormwind Bree, under 20 silver, chuck it. Taunt Compound Bow, since I don't have that much, I'm going to keep it. But there's things like Interlaced Bracers that are 9 silver, 10 silver, 12 silver. You can just throw them into the ocean. Again, your inventory is paramount here. So you want to try to make every spot count before you have to return. Go out, hit reset all instances, and go back in there. I mean, that's the farm. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll try to cover what I can. But I was TurboDog. See you guys later. Hopefully this helps somebody.